crap. Good afternoon, friends. I welcome you to What's in Tegan's Storage Locker, the show that dares to ask the question, just what is in my storage locker? The answer today, well, friendo, the answer is comic books. I pick up a fistful of comic books from my immediate surroundings. We look through them on a camera. You watched at some later date. Hopefully, press the like button and go to the Patreon and all that good stuff. All right, the cat is, believe it or not, he's in his bed. He's not usually in his bed this time of day, so well, now I'm worried. I put up the card for the Patreon at the beginning of the show and the end of the show. If you like the show, if you like what I do, if you like any of my videos, that's how you show your appreciation. I got a ton of stuff for you to download there if you go look around. And let's start off with some Deadpool today. Now, if you're expecting me to be anti-Deadpool, well, I have some news for you. I'm definitely pro-Deadpool from way back. I have read the vast majority of all Deadpool stories that have ever been printed. There's a couple years I missed there, but only a couple years. That's pretty good, you know, and that's years when, you know, I was maybe reading his books out of the library or, you know, online. I haven't always bought the book every month, but for many years I have bought the book every month. And definitely in the first stretch of the book, because it was the first stretch of Deadpool as a solo character that really sold him as a character. It had that responsibility. No one in 1997, when Deadpool launched, no one was looking for Deadpool to be the next big thing. No, Deadpool was straight up a Hail Mary. And it's actually kind of an odd story in hindsight, because at the precise moment of his conception, Deadpool seems like the most annoying character in the world, both in text and out of text. In hindsight, he's a guy who shows up for literally a few pages in issue 98 of New Mutants. He's really annoying. He doesn't really do anything, and he leaves. And people loved him. We all wanted more. We all wanted more Deadpool. I'm not excluding myself here. I bought New Mutants 98 at the 7-Eleven on the way home from school. Deadpool is my guy. Now, the funny thing about Deadpool is he is the one counterexample practically in all of Marvel that you can look to in the 90s of them having a hot property on their hands and just like backing off it. Like, we don't know. We'll put him in some books. He'll show up in Avengers on an anniversary month, and that'll probably get some readers. Maybe we'll give him a limited series a few years after he's premiered, after he's already begun to cool down a bit, and his original artist is long gone. So it's this other guy who's going to be big, but you don't know that yet. Yeah, and then we'll do another limited series, maybe the year after that. And that might get a couple stirrings of interest because we actually put Mark Waid on that during the period when Mark Waid is at Marvel. Now, I think, you know, it would be a mistake to overestimate the influence Waid had. But nonetheless, he wrote the second Deadpool story of any consequence. So, you know, there's always a bit of his print on the character. But I don't think there's any doubt whatsoever. You know, Fabian Nicieza and Mark Waid notwithstanding, the person who really made Deadpool work on the page as a writer, not just as a character idea, which is all he really was. In X-Force, he didn't have any development to speak of at all until Rob Liefeld was gone. And like I say, there was just so much going on there. And that was the one thing that they were like, guys, we got so much going on. Maybe just not push Deadpool so hard. Because later on in the decade, when we've taken it in the shorts for a while, and we're really desperate. How desperate were we? Well, we just had the whole Heroes Reborn thing that tore the guts out of the company and really hurt a lot of people. But one thing it also did was it kind of provided a kick in the pants to certain parts of the Marvel organization. And so they had a little bit of a Roman spring during the period of Heroes Reborn. If you actually look at the Marvel line, where they're basically just given a wide open schedule with nothing to account for it because they're not publishing Fantastic Four. Well, they need to put something in that hole. So let's launch Thunderbolts. That's when they first tried Thunderbolts. And it was really a kind of unique idea that had to come out of that special circumstance because what sold the idea was those heroes being gone for a year. Who steps in to take over? Oh, well, some charlatans who try to run a confidence game on everyone. And that turned out to be, one of the great Marvel ideas, just straight up. No bull. Thunderbolts, it's up there. Fantastic idea. And they've spent years running away from it and trying to do anything but that basic setup of like people on the run looking for redemption. It's such a great hook. And that's never what they want to do. They want to do the Suicide Squad. I think, the opening's there. And that's when they put J.M. DeMatteis and Ron Garney on Silver Surfer, and we read that as well. And that's when Mark Waid did Kazar, which, it was certainly an artifact of the times, and it got us buying Kazar for at least a year. After a year, the magic, the sled went a little bit wobbly there. But after a year, they could go back to publishing Avengers. So those books that they launched during that strange miracle period, they had to sink or swim on their own. And the really amazing thing is that Deadpool was no one by the time they got around in 1997 to say, hey guys, we need a Hail Mary. Who do we have? Deadpool. We've never done anything with him. Why not? I don't know. It seems like we sort of slept on that one. Well, let's give it a shot. And the best part of that story is not that Deadpool was given his first ongoing solo book in 97 and it became an instant smash. No. It was a book that had a decent launch and respectable sales. Actually, a book that kind of struggled in sales for most of its existence once you really drill down to brass tacks. What it had was a devoted readership and actual critical acclaim. People loved the book. It was well written. It was funny. It was probably everything the book couldn't have been if they'd really made a go with the guy in 93. But they didn't really make a go with the guy in 93. In 93, like I said, he had a limited series. After his creator left, he appeared in the Avengers anniversary issue. I mean, he did lots of stuff. He appeared here and there in the X-Men books. He was a bit player in X-Force, but that's kind of it. His big subplot in X-Force was a on again, off again relationship with Siren, which was, I think I've mentioned it before, but it was really a favorite romantic subplot of a great many readers, and they've just never really seen fit to do anything with her character after they spent years making us like her a lot more than Banshee. Banshee, they killed him in a plane crash, and no one really cared. People loved Siren, and they never use her. Ah, man. Oh, well. Oh, man. I think I've said before, we were like 10 minutes late to this movie because I think it was maybe me or someone else couldn't read a clock. But we didn't really complain that much because none of us really liked it that much. It's not a good movie. Don't let any nostalgia tell you otherwise. Yeah, so that's 25 years ago. Oh, there's the cold hand of Father Time on your shoulder there, son. Oh, man, so we're well into the end game here. He lasted, Kelly. He lasted 3 years, I think. I want to say maybe a neat 3 years, maybe just one or two less. And, it was a low sales book. It struggled. Wizard really put their weight behind this book because they thought it was funny. They thought it was hilarious. And it was. They did all sorts of Wizard features when this book was out. People really went out of their way to push it because, oddly enough, by 1997, Deadpool had gone from being this absolutely superfluous character who just gets tossed into a couple issues of X-Force and inexplicably becomes massively popular based on nothing more than watching this guy run around for 20 minutes. They didn't actually do anything with him. And by the time they did, the people who still cared were enough to support a, critically acclaimed Marvel B title. This was also during the run of Black Panther, and Deadpool had a crossover. Two books that suffered with sales through the entirety of their run, but both nevertheless managed to eke out really respectable runs. I don't know, could the Priest Black Panther last another 25 issues? Sure. It didn't. It lasted a lot longer than there was any expectation that it would have going in. You have to look at things that way. They got the movie out of this period of the character. So like I say, there was enough in the company that felt the injury, enough to want to begin to reform. Now, there were other problems with that. Not every part of the company was open to reform at the period because of the way the company was being run, but that's kind of every moral turnover story. At some point, at every point in the company's history, there's a moneymaker, one or two. But it never really stays the same for forever. The X-Men, it seemed like they were on top for forever. But the Avengers were. Then they had their moment in the sun, and that seemed quite dominant. And, Deadpool had a few years. Deadpool may very well have another few years in the future here. But if Deadpool doesn't have every year in a row, that's a familiar situation to him. He remembers, like, you just got to limp ahead, make sure the diehards have something in their hands, and enough people will flock back to the guy when he's done well. See, I told you, I'm a Deadpool person. I don't even hate those movies. Are we supposed to hate those movies? I don't know. It's kind of Deadpool. Looks like Deadpool to me. They did a great job of that. They took those Fox movies. I have issues with them. Seems like they always tone down all the parts of the X-Men that I was most interested in. But anyway, what are you gonna do? So, if you're wondering what's going on in this comic book, the answer is, honestly, at this point, I don't have a clue. I bought this book. It was one of my favorite books every month. But at this point in the run, it was kind of getting a bit plot heavy. It had a lot that it had to resolve. And admittedly, it kind of sapped some of the energy of the book. That it did have a really elaborate plot in the first few years that built up to a cosmic, story with, lots of guest stars even. But it sold the character. You can't say he didn't come out of that period with a solid set of stories under his belt, which is something he didn't have going into it in 1997. He just didn't. Oh, they're still doing the God milk. I've told you about that. We would have sworn up and down on a stack of Bibles that this was that the National Fluid Milk Processor Promotion Board was some Reagan-era government program. It wasn't. No, they just wanted us to buy more milk. And they wonder why we're cynical. All right. So, yeah, who's doing the... was it Pete Woods? They just gave us Woods. It's Pete, isn't it? Oh, I have to check, don't I? I guess I'm going to check. So, yeah, lots of supporting characters. He's actually dealing with some of the stuff that Larry Hamill laid down in Wolverine that no one else really touched with the Landau, Luckman, and Lake. I don't know if maybe those guys were in the Krakoa era. Everyone else was. But it was kind of an original idea, just a cross-dimensional law firm and all that entails. But I don't, other than maybe showing up in She-Hulk, probably showed up in She-Hulk at some point. I don't know what all anyone has done with the concept, other than this part of Deadpool. No one really likes to use them again, I guess. So I can't remember the last time I saw them in a Deadpool comic, but they were his supporting cast. This set of players, this weird corpse guy. I think he had precognitive powers, and he had a crush on this operative for the company. So, it's all sorts of human drama, the type of stuff that gets people coming back month in, month out. But although at some point this is definitely a run I could stand to reread, I have all of it, so that might be something quite fun to do at some point. I don't really remember much of the plot. The thing I remember about this run wasn't so much the plot, but, the one-offs, Deadpool 11, which, straight up, I will do on the TikTok one of these days, if I still have it. It's one of my favorite comics of all time. It's a fantastic book. It's one of the books that really endeared him to the world. So, yeah, they were 20 issues into the Hero's Return Captain America. This was the Iron Man 1999 Annual. Oh, I remember. Was this I want to say, don't quote me on this, I want to say that was maybe Joe Casey. Avengers 19, oh man, this is right in the middle of the Ultron story in Avengers, which let me tell you, my friends, we are going to do that on the Tech Talk at some point. I don't want to do it too soon, because we did Crisis on Infinite Earths not that long ago. But I mean, I'm not going to lie and say that I don't own many comics drawn by George Perez. I don't own all of them because I still don't care for the Titans. Not even George Perez can really endear me to the Titans. George Perez can get me to check in on the Titans. That's the limit of George Perez's influence. Yeah, so I don't remember where the middle of the, oh, geez. See, there was a lot of stuff. They still had to do, wait a minute. T-Ray's on the cover, and T-Ray's only on the back page. What, man, look, I've read close to every comic book that T-Ray has ever appeared in. And yet, if you ask me to sum up T-Ray's story, I would probably get up and leave the room. I'm sorry. There's a reason they didn't reach for that one in the movie. Maybe if they do like... Maybe T-Ray is like for the fourth movie. You know, he's got cred from being, you know, his arch foe from way back, but no one likes him other than Joe Kelly. He has no nose. Now he does, I recognize now, he looks like he stepped out of a shonen anime. And I appreciate that now more than I did then. But that's really, I mean, no one's ever really run with that part of his character since, you know, his creator, who figured out that, you know, the way to make an arch nemesis for someone as completely over the top as Deadpool was just to give him a totally self-absorbed, like, shonen antagonist bad guy, and no one else has really picked up on that vibe. I don't even know if it's a great vibe, but it's at least an interesting vibe. And like I say, Deadpool 4, they might start talking about T-Ray. All right, so here's the bullpen bulletins. Yeah, see, there's good things happening at the company, and there's bad things happening at the company, because this is the month Deathlock #1 from Joe Casey and Leonardo Manco ship, one of the best books of the decade from the company, set out to die of exposure. Don't get me started. Don't get me started. It's still just, it's a confounding loss even after 25 years. Oh, and this was the month of the first issue of the Contest of Champions, too. We read the 5th issue of that, which was a big Rogue versus Carol slobber knocker. A satisfying read, I'm not going to lie, for that reason. But that's probably what they were counting on. Yeah, maybe this is the same month or the month after something else we looked at recently, because they're also talking about the Joe Pruitt and Rob Liefeld redux on cable leading into the 12. First month of X-51. Now maybe Deathlock would have, maybe Deathlock would have done better if he hadn't also launched it alongside. Yeah, I bought it because I wanted with all my heart to like a Machine Man book. But it was not to be. The Machine Man book of the 90s was going to be Earth X, which was not something that anyone was probably... Well, actually, no. By now, I think people understood that by the time this was published. Spider-Man Chapter 11. So this is Chapter 1, Issue 11. So this is the 11th issue of John Byrne's Spider-Man revamp. They have already figured out the reception to that one. John Byrne was all in on the Spider-Man books. He was still drawing this. He was writing this new Spider-Woman series. And he was... I don't know if he was still drawing Amazing, but he had a good run, maybe like 8 or 10 issues on Amazing, I want to say. I'm not saying it was good, but it was a better part of a year. And people just, not people's favorite Spider-Man period. Really cured me of being a Spider-Man reader, I tell you. What do we got next here? All right, I got something fun. JLA Annual #1 from 1997. The last comic we read was from 1999. This is, a couple years before. This is the first annual coming out of Grant Morrison's JLA which was just an absolute the book to beat for its 4-year run. I thought it kind of lost a little bit of gas at the end, but not everyone did, and it was still an event up until the very end. Now, sadly, they did not write the annuals, or at least they did not write this annual. This annual was written by Brian Augustin, who's no Grant Morrison, but who knows his way around a DC story. But what you're really interested here is that you got art by Ariel Olivetti and a little fella by name of Gene Ha. Yes, yes, yes. That Gene Ha. The Gene Ha is going to blow your mind in about 2 years with a book called Top 10. Is that his signature book after all this time? It's probably not that X-Men annual. the other first thing I thought about. No, actually, I was thinking, what would the... Well, there's The Adventures of Cyclops of Phoenix. That was a beautiful series. That was the series that put him on the map. Might read that on the show someday. So, yeah, we got a Martian Manhunter story. This is part of the Pulp Heroes. I think we read one of the Superman Pulp Hero books, which was Superman against some Asian caricatures, if I recall correctly. So this is, keeping with the pulp theme. So we got a John Jones detective story, which could very well be good. That's definitely a unique space that the character can occupy. Maybe an underexplored space, even. Again, there's another idea that no one ever really thought to run with. They put the Martian Manhunter in some of those TV shows. He was on the Supergirl that I watched for a couple of years, I want to say. But cut the character off from a team setting and, relaunch him as a hard-boiled noir guy, with a few aces up his sleeve. That's a strong hook for the character, and they're doing it for an annual, so let's see how it goes. So, okay, so we're getting a flashback here to some alien being killed by hunters in the woods who down a spacecraft and wind up on a newspaper, because this is a comic and stuff like that happens in comic books. And here's your dudes looking, well, pretty much how they looked in 1997, which so many of these guys are in weird incarnations here. Because he was this guy, Superman was blue, for at least a year. At least a year, I think. I mean, they went the full length with the story. They had him blue for a while, and then they had him blue and red for a while. And then they had a big crossover with the Millennium Giants, and interesting only because John Paul Leon drew part of it, which admittedly is quite interesting on its own. Aquaman, he's still... People like this look. I'm not going to say this wasn't a great look. People actually were upset when they got rid of this look. I'm not going to say that Aquaman was the highest selling book in the 90s, but people actually liked that look, and they got rid of it. And, crab mask. I mock the crab mask, because the crab mask doesn't make any sense according to how noses work. But I love Darryl Banks' art. I think we've read some Darryl Banks on this show. I'll probably read some Darryl Banks again. He's a great artist. I wish he'd work more. He did a really long run on Green Lantern, and not really that much else. I don't think he ever even drew the Silver Surfer. So, yeah. They're doing something. I'm not going to try to... There's a lot of plot going on here. It's pulp, so they're getting their pulpy predilections in terms of prose captions. Sorry. So, yeah, here's a stocky-headed PI walking around, throwing his weight around town. Even with my self-imposed restrictions, I knew the word was out. Stonewall anyone who asked about the killing. In my case, it backfired. They simply convinced me that I was onto something. There you go. So someone takes a shot at John. But, you know, it's like striking a brick wall. If the guy really wants to do something, get out of Bic. Oh, and I want skills. Yeah, it's, you know, for all we say about ads in the 90s, like, oh, there you go. This is the candy. You want to eat it, don't you? Yes, I do, actually. All right. Hadley's a peaceful town. Oh, I've been to a Hadley. Oh, so we've got a gorgeous dame with gams that don't quit, lighting a smoke in a bar. There you go. Perfect. And it looks great. It looks great. You know, Olivetti is still, is he inking himself here? No, he's inking himself. You know, you think of him as being a fine, really fine detail guy. But look at these blacks here. Look at these blacks. He's really making good use of spotting here. Yeah, I mean, guy's got the goods, no doubt about that. My goodness, that is a very nice looking splash, I must say. Yeah, I mean, it's just John Jones doing a hard-boiled mystery with a sci-fi twist towards the end here. It looks like we're getting to. Nice looking book. We haven't even gotten to the Gene yet, and this is already a very nice looking comic book. The Visitor. I don't remember that at all. I remember everything. From the director and producer of Independence Day. Okay. So there. Oh well, it turns out there's some sort of angry mob. She's at the head of it with a flaming torch. Oh, it just so happens to be a flaming torch. He can handle the mob. What he has trouble with is the torches there. Oh, Joker weighs a ton. Yeah, what's he made of? Oh, so they're gonna tie him up in a lake house and burn him to death. All right, there you go. Oh, huh. And N64 we're already on to. International Superstar Soccer 64. I was not a man, I was a Martian, and I hunted men. I'm sorry. I don't know, even in context, I don't know if I'm going to give that one a pass. The knowledge provided me with a measure of comfort in my final moments. So, yeah. So then we get a couple pages of Martian Manhunter looking pretty cool. I like the Martian Manhunter. I'll always check out the Martian Manhunter. Really liked his solo book that he had out of the JLA. John Ostrander and Tom Mandrake. It was sort of their follow-up to their run on the Spectre, and it was an excellent comic book. Excellent comic book. And, you know, it had the longest run that Martian Manhunter has yet managed as a solo character. So, you know, let's give some props. So there's a nasty story about killing the guy or killing the alien, and basically Oh, yeah. We thought he was coming to kill us, so we killed him first. I mean, yeah, we all saw that one coming. They killed this guy by accident, and then the Martian Manhunter has to figure that out. Because he's, you know, and that's something that he did every now and again, was look after the welfare of other aliens on the planet. Which is an interesting remit for a superhero, you know, that you could do more with that. You know, Marvel introduced, they introduced that agency, Sword, basically, to facilitate stories just like that. Okay, so we're on to Gene Ha. Still written by Brian Augustine. Clem Robins letterer. Who lettered the first one? Yeah, Clem Robins lettered the first one, too. So, Gene Ha's doing his own colors, but we're also already seeing digital separations as well by Heroic Age. Do not ask me to explain that divide to you. You know, at some point, someone's just going to have to sit down and show me how they do it, because I hear over and over again, and it just refuses to stick in my head what any of these computer processes are. I don't know. When I was a kid, we had 4 colors and we liked it. Oh man, I don't want to be old. I don't want to be old. Ugh. Man. Even back in 1997. Gene Ha, man. And if you haven't seen the Wonder Woman Historia, well, that is a real barn burner of a book. Just absolutely gorgeous. It deserves every award it's won. I wrote a glowing review of it for the Comics Journal. It's one of the best Wonder Woman stories I think I've ever read. And it's gorgeous, and it's got 3 artists who are all equally gorgeous. One of them is Gene Ha, another is Phil Jimenez, and the third is Nicola Scott. And all 3 issues are gorgeous. I think Gene Ha is working digitally now. And it's amazing how, in his case, you can definitely see how his use of digital tools is always in search of the same type of effect that he sought after from day one. Because you go back to, you know, his earliest work that I remember liking, which was, well, hello, I was just telling people earlier that you were asleep. Perhaps he woke up. Oh, what was I just saying? Oh, yes. The earliest work of his I ever saw was on Green Lantern. He did a number of Green Lantern books for a little while there. He did a crossover. He did some issues of the regular series. And not a period from Green Lantern that is going to be reprinted anytime soon. Not that great of a period of Green Lantern in general, other than the fact that if you come across any of the back issue bends, there's some early Gene Ha artwork, and he's working, you know, completely manually. No one was doing computers back then. And he's doing a lot of very fine detail work to approximate what he does now digitally. And I appreciate that, even if I wish he'd still do it with pen and ink. But I see the continuity there, and I can understand the appeal. I like seeing the technique on the paper, you know. I like being able to see where the pen has scraped across the bristle of the board. And that's not something that the computer can give you. But now, my goodness. So I don't know how to describe these because I only ever saw them in ads. I've never seen one of these in the wild anywhere, I don't think. And yet these ads ran for a little while, these little, I think, pewter statues with these famous DC covers, and they don't look terrible as these things go. Someone probably put them on their home library somewhere, but I can't remember ever seeing one in the wild, so they probably didn't make that big of a... But what do I know? There's always a market for the statues. That's what gets me. The statues. Who buys the statues? They never stop with the statues. I've never bought a statue. Have you ever bought a statue? I don't. Maybe you have. Am I the one behind the times because I don't buy the statues? Some of the statues are very nice. Don't get me wrong. Now, if I had the money, if I had the money to justify, well, yeah, maybe I'd get a nice conversation piece. But, oh, that's different, I guess. Now, I'll admit, I don't necessarily know quite what Gina is doing to get these marks on the page. And that is something I find fascinating about his work sometimes, is, I like to be able to see the technique. And sometimes with him, I can't figure out exactly what he's doing. And that's fascinating. And if I knew, or if I could, make an educated guess, but it looks like digital textures years before anyone was doing those type of digital texturing effects. Is he that far ahead of his time, ladies and germs? I don't know. That's a weird-looking Batman. Green Lantern, Flash, your powers are back in play. Wrap up these goons any way you want. So, yeah, it's just Gene Hod drawn a rather unique iteration of the JLA. Connor Hawke wasn't hanging around the JLA for very long. Electric Blue Superman wasn't around for very long. Wonky looking Batman. I like how he draws the hood though. But yeah, this is their big book, so of course they're putting it on the subscription form. Now, at this point, their subscription form, that's down to 9 books. Although this looks more like this family of books. You got JLA, Jack Kirby's Fourth World. They tried to push it. Oh no, they were still pushing Azrael. No, that's Azrael. Oh God, Azrael lasted 100 issues. Why? How? Power Shazam. Oh, I bought every issue of that. That was my favorite Captain Marvel iteration right there. And I was still on board with the John Byrne Wonder Woman. Not even this period. This period, I think, was the period they tried to get Dan Jurgens onto Teen Titans. I gave it a go. But I've given the Teen Titans a go so many times, and you don't want to get me going on about the Teen Titans. I know. You're sick of hearing me go on about the Teen Titans. But I was down with Supergirl. Ooh, Sovereign 7 was... I don't think Sovereign 7 was going to be around for another year. But Nightwing was still doing good. Oh, and here's the first year of Tangent, which I swear to you, the first year of Tangent, especially. I love Tangent. I am a Tangent booster all the way, 100%. The way some people talk about Amalgam, that's me for Tangent. The Tangent Flash, right here, Todd DeZago, Gary Frank, Cam Smith, one of my favorite single issues ever, any comic. Green Lantern, James Robinson, J.H. Williams III, and Mick Gray. The Atom by Dan Jurgens and Paul Ryan. 3 solid books. You're going to pick those up if you find them in the bin, based just on those names. And they're all excellent. And if you don't know anything about them, all the better. All right. The Faces of the DC Universe. Oh, I remember this. This was actually a fun month because this was just, you can see the gimmick right here. Every issue this month had this cover gimmick of just a portrait. And straight up, sometimes gimmicks like this can be really annoying, but this one just worked. It was a great idea. It was an obvious idea. They didn't bring it back and do it to death. It was just 1 month. And some of these pieces are fantastic. They're all interesting. There's Hitman, Lobo picking his nose. There's the crab mask. The Flash with a giant brain. And this Dark Side one by Walt Simonson. Practically the best piece of the month. But yeah, DC was doing some things right about now. Because in 1997, Marvel was tearing itself apart, and you can't say that it didn't show in terms of the number of freelancers who ended up over at DC in those years. Okay, here's something fun to look at for the last few minutes here. This is Fantastic Four Atlantis Rising Collector's Preview with a nice wraparound cover of the early 90s iteration of the Fantastic Four, which was in a weird period at this point because Reed was dead, Sue was in charge, Ben was going through a real hard time because he got his best friend died, and he got his face really messed up by Wolverine, and that was actually, that stayed around for a few years. He was walking around scarred because Wolverine was out of control, and everyone knew it. Johnny, he had a big plot line where he demolished a college. Nowadays, they'd probably build him a statue. But no, he burnt down, Empire State, and he went to trial for it even. And this is the teenage Franklin Richards, not to be confused with the other teenage Franklin Richards who came back during Days of Future Present, or the young adult Franklin Richards who came back in Jonathan Hickman's. He's come back a few times. Or the old guy who came back during the Byrne run. So, like I say. And so, Reed's not here, but they got Namor. He's in and out of the book for a while here, as is Ant-Man. And the Atlantis Rising was a crossover they had when people weren't really looking for a crossover from the Fantastic Four. The Fantastic Four was doing pretty well, but, this was 1995. Marvel had maybe less than, how should I put it? Marvel had less than humanitarian reasons for putting another Fantastic Four crossover out in 1995. But, one of the consequences of the publishing line at the time was they weren't doing Marvel Age anymore. I think Marvel Age was gone by now. They weren't on to the later 90s iteration, which was the square-bound one, which the covers were always modeled. No one really remembers anything about it. It was Marvel Vision, was it? Marvel Edge? No, not Marvel Edge. It's, what can I say? It's been a while. I have all of them. I want to say it's Marvel Vision. So this is one of those things they sort of did in the intervening years, which was every month or so they, just put a special out with features on, what was going on, which was talking about promoting the books. All right, but there would also always be other stuff. And, if you read the article selling you the new story once, maybe you'll spend more time reading the article on the history of what is this? The history of the Atlantic Ocean and Marvel Universe. So you get to see where Atlantis was, Atalan, the Bermuda Triangle with Monster Island. See, there's an interesting article. Here's a historical feature on the Inhumans with a nice piece of John Byrne Inhumans art. The Inhumans are not my favorite. They weren't my favorite even before Marvel spent many years trying to make us like the Inhumans more than we do. And even before, the Inhumans almost killed Rogue. Don't think I forgot about that. I haven't. Anything that happens to them, they deserve. They hurt Rogue. But, you know, this is the type of, you know, I'd still probably read something like this today. Philip Nutman is an award-nominated novelist and screenwriter. Who wrote the other article? Jay Franco. Anya Martin is a fiction writer and freelance journalist who has written extensively about comics and rock music. Yeah, so, interesting mix of bylines here. And here's a Jack Kirby reprint, which, here you go. The Origin of the Incomparable Inhumans, from when they stopped the Tales of Asgard backups and switched over to doing Tales of the Inhumans in the back of Thor. And if, like me, you watch Tom Sholey's YouTube channel, he just covered that switchover. And I agree with him, Tales of Asgard was much more interesting. You can't make me interested in the Inhumans. Sure, I'll read them if you get Jack to draw them. Jack invented them, but it's a backdrop. I'm sorry, the Inhumans is a background. Trying to take those characters seriously has just been, it's been a bad scene for a lot of people. So here's 2 pages on Morgan Le Fay with some, is that Avengers art? Because this is that Avengers team, and I guess they fought her at the time. Sholly Fish, who is a name who still can be found around the comics industry. He's done a lot of writing in comics and of comics without ever really having a signature run in, you know, solid mainstream superhero comics. I don't know if he wants it. Darren Dean writing about, different history of Doctor Doom here with, history of Nathaniel Richardson Christoph, and, oh, my goodness. Fantastic Four definitely has its fair share of, well, I mean, what was I saying earlier about the different Franklins? Anyway, this type of historical foo-for-ah is basically catnip for me at any age, but especially when I was the age where I was buying Fantastic Four and got this, you know, naturally, because this I probably enjoyed a lot more than Fantastic Four that month, because Atlantis Rising was kind of a stinker. I don't think I have all of it by any means. I just have the books that I was buying that intersected it, which they couldn't sell me on wanting to be interested in Atlantis Rising. So, top 10 monsters. So the pre-hero Marvel monsters who, you know, actually I love these stories. I think these are very interesting stories. They're actually kind of depressing stories. They have really hard edges to them that are not appreciated, I don't think. I've read a few of them on the TikTok channel. We'll probably read more at some point on the TikTok channel, because I find them really fascinating. Zutak, Strange Tales, 88, Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. Monstrolo, that's Kirby and Lee. Oh, you're not giving me the... It's not telling me. Well, that is Kirby, but it should be telling me that it's Kirby. Lee and Kirby, Pildor the Plunderer, Taboo. Again, another Kirby there. Rorg, King of the Spider-Men, Lee, Kirby, and Ayers. Oog, Tales of Suspense 27, Kirby, Lee, Ayers. The Green Thing. Lee Kirby and Ayers are at it again. There's that plant guy. Orgo the Unconquered, who showed up in the Busick Larson Defenders, which, oh my God, that is a great book. That is a fantastic book. It is a miracle they even got a year out of that, but it is a great book. Manu, Lee Kirby and Ayers. Was there a single Ditko monster? Oh yeah, there you go. There's one. And Gugum, son of Goom, who showed up quite a bit actually in the 2000s. What did they call those? The Roger Langridge Fin Fan Foom cycle, which I really love those stories. Those are great stories. If you ever run across any of the Roger Langridge Fin Fan Foom stuff, absolutely fantastic. And here's another Kirby, Lee, Sinnott, Rosen, Inhumans yarn. This is kind of indeterminate printing, but it can't do anything to mar the, this is an excellent sequence at the, look, I said it wasn't as good as Tales of Asgard. This is still a fantastic Kirby sequence here with this robot, the Sentry, walking on, prehistoric Earth, encountering, cavemen and woolly mammoths. And oh, there's a weird city out there. What's going on here? Oh, it's these guys. I don't like you guys. Oh yeah, these are the guys I'm looking for. I must learn of your progress, that I may report it when the time does come. Your monarch has subjected himself to the Terrigan mists. I require information, a desire to know if he has been affected. I'm sorry, you can't make me care about the Inhumans. I know, I understand the Inhumans. I've read many Inhuman stories. But, and the toys. I got the first Galactus toy. You better believe I did. Didn't really do a lot. I don't think the electronics did much. Gorgon. You're going to sell me a Gorgon toy. Although they had a trench coat thing. Dragon Man. Dragon Man is a decent deep cut. And they did another. Was that the first? Yeah, maybe that was the first Adam Warlock. Maybe that was the first. Brian David Marshall. Don't remember that. So this is just, telling the kids what toys to buy. But I love the process stuff, even about the toys. Getting an insight into where these things come from. Oh, and here's an article about the rarity of this specific Toy Biz Invisible Woman figure. Maybe running out of stuff to fill the pages. And here's the Marvel Action Hour. Now, the interesting thing is, I've mentioned this on this show before. The one good thing to come out of the otherwise fairly execrable cartoon, if you're ever in the mood to watch a terrible Fantastic Four cartoon, watch the one from the 60s. The one from the 60s has a great theme song, and, it mostly sticks to the stories. The one in the 90s is not worth watching, other than, as I think I mentioned before, go listen to the song if you haven't. It's an excellent song. You'll thank me. You'll thank me. Oh, and here's another. So see, for, $2.25? That's like $1 more, maybe like 75 cents more than the regular comic was at the time. Yeah, for like 3 Kirby reprints, a couple historical features that I might read a couple times, and some puff. Yeah, that's a good product. That's a good value proposition. If Marvel put out that type of value proposition today, I'd be on board. This summer it'll take more than just a wizard to tell you all about your favorite Marvel hero. What? What is it? This is sad. This is sad. Like, how am I supposed to take this? I don't remember seeing it. I'm sure, I know I did see this, but it probably didn't register because it's so sad. Oh, man. All right. Well, we only made it through 3, but that's not so bad. JLA, Deadpool. Maybe Deadpool will get the clicks. I'm not trying to create an uncommercial product here. I do Batman and Spawn just about every other episode, for goodness sakes. But we got to see some Gene Ha today, and you don't always get to see new Gene Ha art. That was probably new to you. That was a nice Alan Davis cover there. So check out the Patreon. I got tons of stuff to download if you like what I do. If you want me to do more of it, if you appreciate it, that's how you show your appreciation. I do daily comic book reviews on TikTok and Instagram. Same reviews up at both. I do almost weekly reviews at the Comics Journal website. I should have something new up this week on the subject of a recent comic book of note. And I have a podcast with Claire Napier. It's called Udder Madness. It's about Top Cow Comics. That's Which Played the Darkness, Michael Turner, Mark Silvestri, all that good stuff. What else? Honestly, I think that's everything. Check out the Patreon. Tell everyone you know about the show. Tell all your friends. Tell all your enemies. Tell strangers you trust with personal details. Have a wonderful day. Take care of yourself. Take care of the world. It's been a huff lately, so we need to be kind to each other. We really, really do. Have a wonderful day. Please be well, be kind to small animals and children, and have a wonderful day.